Okay, so today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 6, verse 35. Chapter 6, Purusha Shukta confirmed, text 35. Today here in Alatra, Florida, it's the auspicious day of Ekadasi, so even more auspicious than usual to gather around and read Srimad Bhagavatam, to engage in devotional service and hearing and chanting. Thank you all for being with us from around the world. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer obeisances, respectful obeisances, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu vadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om jnanatimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshuru namalitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. Shri Chaitanya Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Purusha Shukta confirmed, verse 35. Sa aham Sa mamyanaya maya Tapamaya Prajapatinam Abhivandita Pati Ashtaya Yogam Nipunam Samahita Tam Na Adhyagacham Yata Atma Sambhavaha Soham samamnayamaya Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Astaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Tamna dyagacham yata atma sambhava.
Tamna yagacham yata atma sambhava.
Soham samam nayamayastapomaya.
Soham samam nayamaya.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Astaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Tamnadhyagacham yata atma sambhava.
Tamna jagacham yata atma sambhava.
Soham samam nayamayastapomaya.
Soham samam nayamaya.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Astaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Tamnadhyagacham yata atma sambhava.
Tamna gacham yata atma sambhava.
Soham samam nayamaya stapomaya.
Soham samam nayamayastapomaya.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Astaya yogam nipunam samahita.
Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahita.
Tamnadyagacham yata atma sambhava.
Tamnadyagacham yata atma sambhava.
Soham samam nayamaya stapomaya.
Soham samam nayamayastapomaya.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Astaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Tamna jagacham yata atma sambhava.
Tamnadyagacham yata atma sambhava. Somebody online like to recite the verse?
Soham samam nayamayastapomaya.
Soham samam nayamayastapomaya.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Astaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Tam nadyagacham yata atma sambhava.
Tamnadyagacham yata atma sambhava.
Soham nayamayastapomaya.
Soham samam nayamayastapomaya.
Prajapatinam abhivanditapati.
Prajapatinam
Abhivanditapati.
Astaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahitas.
Tamna jagacham yata atma sambhava.
Tamnadyagacham yata atma sambhava. Would anyone else online like to recite the verse? Saham, myself, the great Brahma.
Myself, the great Brahma.
Samam Naya, Maya, in the chain of disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom.
in the chain of disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom,
Tapamaya,
Tapamaya,
successfully having undergone all austerities,
successfully having undergone all austerities,
Prajapatinam,
Prajapatiinam,
of all the forefathers of living entities,
of all the forefathers of living entities,
Abhivandita,
Abhivandita,
worshipable,
worshipable,
Pati,
Pati,
master,
Master,
Ashtaya,
Astaya,
successfully practiced,
successfully practiced,
Yogam,
Yogam,
mystic powers,
mystic powers,
Nipunam,
Nipunam,
very expert,
very expert,
Samahita,
Samahita,
self-realized,
self-realized,
Tam,
Tam,
the Supreme Lord,
the Supreme Lord,
Na,
Na,
did not,
did not,
Adyagacham,
Adyagacham,
properly understood,
properly understood,
Yata,
Yata,
from whom,
from whom,
Atma,
Atma,
self,
self,
Sambhava,
Sambhava,
generated.
generated.
Translation. Although I am known as the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities, and am an expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities, who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand him, the Lord, the very source of my birth. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamni Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatari. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Brahma, the greatest of all living creatures within the universe, is admitting his failure to know the Supreme Lord despite his vast learning in the Vedic wisdom, despite his austerity, penance, mystic powers, and self-realization, and despite being worshipped by the great Prajapatis, the forefathers of the living entities. So these qualifications are not sufficient to know the Supreme Lord. Brahmaji could understand the Lord to a little extent only when he was trying to serve him by the eagerness of his heart, Hridat Kauntyat Vata, which is the devotional service mood. So this word was used in the previous verse, verse 34, by Brahma, which Prabhupada translates as great earnestness of the heart. Hrida, heart, Autkandhyavata, by great earnestness, or our sincerity, earnestness of our heart, that mood of devotional service. Brahma was saying how by attaching himself with earnestness, lovingly to the lotus feet of the Lord, of Krishna, then he was infallible, only through that. So here Prabhupada is reiterating that, the importance of that mood of the heart, sincerity within our heart. Therefore, the Lord can be known only by the sincere mood of eagerness for service, and not by any amount of material qualification, as scientist or speculative philosopher, or by attainment of mystic powers. This fact is clearly corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita, 1854 through 55. Brahma bhuta prasanatma na sochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param bhaktya mama bijanati yavam yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. Only self-realization by attainment of the above high qualifications of Vedic wisdom, austerity, etc., can help one on the path of devotional service. So these verses quoted from the Gita, the Brahma Bhuta stage that Krishna speaks to Arjuna about, Srila Prabhupada explains how in this stage one is completely detached from material life, from material suffering. They're clear in their position as spirit, and they're simple in nature. They're completely sattvic. It's mentioned like living in a secluded place and things like this. So here, Prabhupada is mentioning that, talking about these high qualifications, but how that's not the goal ultimately. So as we continue in the purport, it says, but failing in devotional service, one remains still imperfect, because even in that position of self-realization, one cannot factually know the Supreme Lord. By self-realization, one is qualified to become a devotee, and the devotee, by service mood, bhaktya, only can gradually know the personality of Godhead. One should not, however, misunderstand the import of vishate, enters into, as referring to merging into the existence of the Supreme. Even in material existence, one is merged in the existence of the Lord. No materialist can disentangle self from matter, for the self is merged in the external energy of the Lord. As no layman can separate butter from milk, no one can extricate the merged self from matter by acquiring some material qualification. This vishate, by devotion, bhaktya, means to be able to participate in the association of the Lord in person. Bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord, means to become free from material entanglement, and then to enter into that kingdom of God, becoming one like Him. Losing one's individuality is not the aim of Bhakti Yoga or of the devotees of the Lord. There are 5 types of liberation, one of which is called Sayujya Mukti, or being merged into the existence or body of the Lord. The other forms of liberation maintain the individuality of the particle soul and involve being always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The word vishate, used in the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, is thus meant for the devotees who are not at all anxious for any kind of liberation. The devotees are satisfied simply in being engaged in the service of the Lord, regardless of the situation. So here I'll just share, Prabhupada is making a clear distinction. He's giving us different philosophical perspectives, understanding, and creating a distinction between, the mood of devotion and becoming one in loving service to God, one in spirit with God, qualitatively the same as God, but the distinction between being qualitatively the same in quality and spirit, and not necessarily in quantity, that we are God or that we merge and lose our identity completely. That our eternal dharma, our sanatana dharma, nitya dharma, is that engagement through our spiritual senses, through loving devotion to Krishna. And I find it sort of humorous and interesting that he talks about how we're already merged, like so many conditioned souls, like we're in such desperation and so much material suffering. We want to detach from it, but sometimes our consciousness will go to the extreme of like, I want to merge into the absolute. I want to get out of this misery. But here Prabhupada is saying, like, we're already merged into God. Like, we're already, like, it's inescapable. We are in Krishna's body. Everything is Krishna. But this is the external energy. This material creation is the external or lower prakriti, the lower energy, external energy of Krishna, and us as the irreducible quanta of consciousness, as the spirit, eternal soul. We're distinct from that. So really our consciousness right now is already merged with Krishna. It's just merged maybe with a part of Krishna that isn't fully satisfying to the essence of our being. So that distinction to begin to purify, to cultivate sattva, this Brahma Bhuta stage, like this is just, this creates the qualification. This creates a fertile ground for us to engage in loving devotion and loving service, but it's not the goal. And he also mentioned Sayuja Mukti, or merging into the body of the Lord, which my understanding here is he's more talking about Brahma Jyoti, or impersonal liberation, that we understand from Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam is also in a way automatic and temporary, because at the end of all the kalpas of Brahma's life, and we all souls that haven't transcended this material realm, haven't developed realization and pure love, merge into that Vishnu. And then when manifestation happens again, we're just thrown right back in. So in a way, he's pointing out like different types of merging and their futility in a way. That's how I perceive it. So, and then, yeah, the distinction between those forms of liberation and the liberation of maintaining individuality and developing the seed of bhakti, the seed of loving service within us. And this word vishate, he really creates a distinction here. Vishate, entering into through loving devotion, we enter into union with Krishna, into union of exchanging love with the divine. Yeah, like this for me, it brings up Om Jnana Timirandasya, like my spiritual master is opening my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. He's putting the salve of knowledge in my eyes so that I can see clearly. And so that vision, that love is within us. That seed of bhakti is within. And then there's in Madhya Lila, there's the verse, Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoye Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Prema Janmeteno Pune Mukhya Anga. So the root cause of devotional service to the Lord is association with advanced devotees. Even one's dormant love for Krishna awakens. Association with devotees is still the most essential. So this like sadhu sangha, being in this word sangha is like anga, it's like limbs. So like being attached at the limb, being, attaching ourselves to the words of the spiritual master, to serving the spiritual master, being in an intimate, creating an intimate relationship where they can be exchanged from heart to heart. That's what begins like almost by osmosis to wake that seed of bhakti in our heart. And then, then we can begin to actually transcend this material context. So I'll continue with the purport. Lord Brahma is the first living being who directly learned the Vedic wisdom from the Lord. Tene Brahma Hridoy Ya Adi Kavaye. Therefore, who can be more learned Vedantist than Lord Brahma? He admits that in spite of his perfect knowledge in the Vedas, he was unable to know the glories of the Lord. Since no one can be more than Lord Brahma, how can a so-called Vedantist be perfectly cognizant of the absolute truth? The so-called Vedantist, therefore, cannot enter into the existence of the Lord without being trained in the matter of Bhakti Vedanta, or Vedanta plus Bhakti. So, Vedanta means self-realization, and bhakti means realization of the personality of Godhead to some extent. So this Bhakti Vedanta, it's like this title, like Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, it's like one who has realized that the entire meaning of all the Vedas, of all knowledge, is bhakti, who has come to that conclusion, who has fully realized that conclusion within themselves, that the whole point of everything and of all the Vedas is bhakti, is to develop this loving service mood and exchange with the personality of Godhead. So without that, even the Vedas are just a bunch of zeros. Without that one in front of the zeros, even the Vedas, which are so incredible and full of so much knowledge about matter and ways that we can have a more successful life, that we can create, peaceful lives and abundant lives. Even that is a bunch of zeros without bhakti. And that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is so perfect, because unlike other Vedas, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole, every page of the Bhagavatam is meant to develop that within us. It's not meant for any material motive. It's not tainted by any material aspirations or motives. It's all about developing pure bhakti, pure loving mood and service for Krishna. I'll continue. No one can know the personality of Godhead in full, but at least to a certain extent, one can know the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, by self-surrender and a devotional attitude, and by nothing else. In the Brahma Samhita, also, it is said, Vedeshu Durlabham, or simply by study of Vedanta, one can hardly find out the existence of the personality of Godhead. But the Lord is Adurlabham Atma Bhakto, very easily available to his devotee. Srila Vyasadeva, therefore, was not satisfied simply with compiling the Vedanta Sutras, but over and above this, by the advice of his spiritual master Narada, he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in order to understand the real import of Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the absolute medium by which to understand the absolute truth. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Vyasadeva. Jai. So, yeah, like for us to realize how beautiful this Srimad Bhagavatam is, that within this verse, Brahma, who is such an elevated being, like we can think of the most qualified people materially on this earth in terms of science, let's say like Einstein, Tesla, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, everyone we can think of, the greatest engineers, mathematicians, scientists, that have all these incredible qualities and think like trillion times ahead of that in intelligence, in purity, in creativity. Brahma is like, yeah, just inconceivable in a way for our minds to think of a personality so high as Brahma. And yet even Brahma is saying, I can't understand Krishna, like trying to just understand him through my intelligence, through the Vedas, right? And Srila Vyasadeva is, after compiling all the Vedas, he's despondent. He's like, what? And the Vedas are so amazing and perfect, but even the author, he's completely dissatisfied. And so his spiritual master Narada is telling, is having an empathic dialogue with him and giving him, the understanding that he's dissatisfied because he's not giving pure bhakti. He's not giving through the Vedas. He's laying the groundwork, but without that ripened fruit of loving devotion, then it's meaningless. And there's a few. There's a story in Krishna book of the Brahmanas who are rigorously fixed and reciting the Vedas and performing their rituals and sacrifices. And the coward boys are hungry, and they ask Krishna, like, we want to eat. And Krishna wants to enjoy with them and fulfill their desires, and he tells them to go and ask charity from the Brahmanas for him and Balaram and the coward boys. And when they go, the Brahmanas are so fixed in their sacrifice and in their recitation of the Vedas that they just completely like miss the point of loving service and devotion to Krishna. And then Krishna, knowing, wanting, out of compassion for them and for his devotees, which in this instance, like the wives of the Brahmanas, the coward boys then go and ask them, and they're just so like completely ecstatic to give food to the coward boys, to Krishna and Balaram. And then the Brahmanas get it, then like they snap out of it. For me, this also brings up how, in my experience, a lot of my life, I'm trying to understand God. It's like, I want to understand you. Let me understand you. I even pray like, I want to understand you. And, it's something I am having a prayer. I'm endeavoring to connect with Krishna. And at the same time, I'm seeing more and more how this is like, it's about me. It's like, I need to understand you to love you. I need to understand you to surrender. I need to understand you so that I feel smart, and so that I, think that I'm doing the right thing and all these things. And ultimately I can go crazy and endeavoring to understand just Krishna's external energy, which is like nothing compared to all of Krishna. And it's interesting because, even Krishna doesn't fully understand Krishna. Krishna is constantly expanding. And in Krishna book also, the personified Vedas, when they're glorifying and praising Krishna, they're saying there's a constant battle between your constant conflict between the part of you that's omniscient, omnipotent, all-knowing, the part of you that's always expanding. Like even you are like racing to catch up with yourself. So even Krishna is just so again, like Brahma, even Krishna himself, and yet like we don't fully aren't totally getting all of Krishna, and like for us to try to wrap our human logic, our imperfect senses, to try to capture God. Where is God? Show me God. And then it's so futile. But adurlavam atma bhakto, to a devotee, to one who has developed love for Krishna, then through those eyes we can see Krishna. It's like there's X-rays here, and we're gonna be like, show me the X-ray, and we're not gonna see the X-ray. We don't have X-ray vision, but if we use an X-ray machine, then it's very clear, like we can see that spectrum. It's the same through the eyes of love, through a heart of love. Then Krishna becomes obvious. Oh, Krishna is everywhere and within me, and it's the personality of Godhead, and then it's simple. And so Sri Guru, Srila Prabhupada, our acharyas, they're like letting us borrow their glasses and be like, this is what we're seeing. Like we're seeing eternity. We're seeing what our eternal constitutional position is. And we're seeing reality, the beautiful reality beyond this material misery. We're seeing this like divine eternal connection and melodious exchange, like endless bliss in dancing with God and serving God. and all we need to do is like try these glasses on, and of course at first it's like shocking. We're like, what? But with time, through the eyes of Shastra, through serving the spiritual master, through serving Krishna's desire, we can develop that mood, that inherent love. That's our birthright. That's the essence of our being. I was reflecting on how even Shankaracharya, here Brahma's talking about how Srila Prabhupada's mentioning how there is no more learned Vedantist than Lord Brahma, and for us, for me, it's kind of easier to maybe relate to Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara, who, over 1,000 years ago was the biggest proponent of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, oneness, this Brahman realization and connecting with God in this way, unifying through yoga, and at the same time, through our Vaishnava line and Sampradaya, we're given the understanding that this is very real and it's part of the picture. And even Shankaracharya himself, towards the end of his life, he writes a poem, a bhajan, Bhaja Govindam, and it begins Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam Damate. So he's saying, praise Govinda, like Jai Govinda, sing the names of Govinda, you fools that are just like absorbed in dry philosophy, and which Shankaracharya was a huge proponent of. Shankaracharya, throughout so much of his teaching, this is talking about like removing this from that, and a lot of like philosophical argument, and then we see what is the ripened fruit of everything he's taught. He's saying, worship Govinda, worship Krishna. And in that song, he's like, oh, Lord Murari, like, please help me. Oh, Murari is the name of Krishna. Please help me. Please get me out of this context. And he ends it by saying, I actually didn't know this line until I was reading it yesterday. But he ends it with saying that chanting the names of God is the only way in this age to really liberate ourselves. So even Shankaracharya, who is like founder of Vedantist like impersonalism in a way in modern history, he's actually, if we look at what he's saying, it's so personal. It's so much about love and devotion. He's so much just saying like all this like dry philosophy will get us nowhere. So yeah, for me that's so inspiring, and it's it becomes so clear that hallowed be thy name, chant. It's within every tradition, every really awakened jiva. They're coming to this conclusion. They're wanting to share that with us, and it's us who are kind of like not wanting to see that. We're resisting that truth. We're resisting that tender, loving devotion. We're resisting, surrendering to essentially what we are. We're so conditioned to pleasing our material senses, to trying to be the controller, the center of the universe, that we're not getting this. I know for me that's so true. It's like it's all here. Everyone's saying it, the birds are singing it, and so I'm like, so much resistance to this. So that's the compassion of Lord Brahma, of Srila Prabhupada, of Vyasadeva. They're letting us see that. For me in this verse, Brahma is giving me. It's humbling to see that even Brahma, who's so much higher than I am in every way, is saying that it's futile to endeavor just understanding Krishna. So without this mood of love and service. So it gives us an opportunity to develop that, to awaken that. I think that's all I'll share. Thank you. Hare Krishna, any comments, questions, challenges? George.
Hare Krishna, Narayan, thank you so much for class this morning. I am connecting very much with your sharing, like your realization when we say, hey Krishna, I need to understand you, how that is making it about me, you know? And that very much connects with me, and I'm having this realization that that's like a nice perspective. And, you know, like George Harrison and that song, you know, My Sweet Lord, and in that song, and I love that song, he consistently makes that, you know, I need to know you, I really want to see you. And I had this realization that perhaps that internal monologue could sound more like, hey Krishna, in the words of modern singer-songwriter Adele, I need to let you feel my love. You know, like, I need to let you feel my love. It just kind of like connected with me. Like Marshall Rosenberg, you know, so much about a lot of the, you know, like really getting clear with what our needs are, with what our unmet needs are. And when I phrase it in that sense of like, what I need is to let Krishna feel my love. And then so much, you know, we read that verse last night about, from Bhagavad Gita 4.38 about like realizing, getting transcendental knowledge, how that leads to like inner peace, like peace within the self. And I'm recognizing that maybe my unmet need, or the need that I consistently fail to understand, is that need to, I think it's just let him feel that love. And in addition to that, I really am feeling a lot of encouragement from Prabhupada in this verse, because like so much of my understanding and kind of what I speak about to myself is like, oh, there's no happiness here. Happiness is just release from misery and so forth. So to think that I'm already like surrounded or merged by Krishna, that's so like positive for me. Like I was walking by to take the trash and I saw a little robin, for those who don't know, it's a little brightly red colored bird. And I remember saying like, hey Krishna, like, good job. Like I see that, like it was beautiful for me, and connecting with Krishna in that way. So to think that I'm already surrounded by Krishna, I already have this human form of life, and I've already found Prabhupada. It's like, if I just hold on to Prabhupada's ankles for dear life, like it can only get better, you know? It's such like a nice, I don't know, it's a positive kind of uplifting thing for me. So I just wanted to share that.
Jai, thank you. Yeah, it's so impactful. It's so powerful to hear your joy, and feeling connected and seeing how Krishna is all around. And yeah, that I get it's transformational for you to consider the paradigm of revealing your heart to Krishna, giving your heart to Krishna, having him taste that sweetness rather than needing to capture Krishna. Yeah, and I think it's, you know, with the song that you mentioned, like, I really want to see you, Lord. I really want to, you know, that's wonderful also. Like that's such a high, that's very personal. It's such a high form of prayer. And, you know, even in the Sri Ishopanishad, the same thing is kind of iterated. It's like, please remove your dazzling veil, effulgence, like show your beautiful face to your devotee. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's like, how do we actually do that? Oh, it's like, yeah, by developing that loving mood, by letting that nectar that is Krishna's, but that is within us, like come out, and then Krishna will come naturally like a hummingbird, you know, to our that nectar and drink from that, and then that's, you know, that's what he wants. That's what the pure devotee wants, is just to increase Krishna's opportunities to do that with as many souls. Like Krishna wants all of us to be in union with him and enjoying and truly satisfied and happy in bliss with him. And it's like to get to join in that ourselves, to get to join in letting our own nectar be revealed, and helping others to do that, to be in that process. That's the practice and the goal of bhakti.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Ramachandra.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the class. I like the breaks that you did in between to highlight, because Prabhupada's purport is so dense with so many features that I personally sometimes miss them at the end when I give a reference. But the first time that you stopped, or the second part when you highlighted about the merging, stood up for me, like coming out of the spiritual world. From my understanding, we come here because, right, we envy Krishna, we want to occupy his position or something like that. But then in terms of like spiritual practices, right, the monists or the Mayavadis, they're trying to merge in their practice. And I was wondering from where that tendency is coming from, okay, we take to our spiritual practice and then we try to merge with God instead of serving him.
So your question is like, why would someone want to do it? Where is that desire coming from?
Yeah, merging with God. Like someone already took to spiritual practice. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense that we would do that out of love, right, in a sense. But then again, there's something doesn't connect with me in terms of like why the merging propensity is there. So I thought to ask you, like, what, why we want to merge?
Yeah, so are you going to answer? I would like to, I'm not so realized in this at all, and I would like to hear from someone who is, and I will before that share that one thing for me that's also important is like all the different, like Prabhupada uses merge more than a few times in the Bhagavatam and in the Gita and oneness, and he makes distinctions in that. And I think a lot of us, a lot of people on earth who have spiritual aspirations, I think a lot of people aren't necessarily really like, I know that there are some that understand philosophically what merging is and like are wanting that. And I also want to appreciate that like a lot of people, maybe especially in the West, like they might begin practicing a practice of self-realization, and they'll begin feeling more connected to reality on a more subtle level, and feeling more joy and unity between other living entities themselves, and that like, yeah, from that it might arise like this desire to always be in that energy, to always be in that state, and without like philosophy and without a pure devotee to guide us, then I see like a natural tendency to just want to like, I just want to like be in this state, and without having like the qualities, the pastimes, the name, of God, the form of God, then it's quite natural for us to go to like, I just want to like be in this energy. And that's all I'll say about that. And if anybody, Malini wants to.
I don't need to tell it. I'm good. I just have a few things to say, but one is that we are all impersonalists, so that's really important to remember that we have those tendency for impersonalism. They are within us, and that's why Srila Prabhupada spends so much time in his book describing what it is for us to be able to identify, because without identifying those impersonalist tendency within us, then those tendencies are going to keep us from relishing the mellows that Narayan is speaking about in Bhakti and exchange of love between us and Krishna. That's one part. And then Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, like Prabhupada really, that's his mission. His mission is to bring us to understand our impersonal tendency. And then many places also explain that, okay, there is three realization of God: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Brahman is a very exalted, advanced realization of God. And to really have that, like Narayan was sharing, it's so satisfying for a conditioned soul. It describes that, like the pleasure that's available in heavenly planet is like a drop of water for the ocean. And then he said that the pleasure contained with Brahman realization is like the water contained into the hoofprint of a calf in comparison to like an ocean. So it's a lot more than anything that's available in this material sphere, even in heavenly planets. So it's very attractive just by that. And when people experience it, and we all have experience of that, it's so relishable, it's so deeply fulfilling. And also Prabhupada, like I just gave the purport to Narayan, in the purport to Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter 10 verse, Prabhupada explained all the psychology of why. And the main psychology why we don't want relationship anymore. So we want, impersonalism is not wanting relationship, is because we are so burned out by our material relationship. We are so disgusted with material relationship. So that's one aspect, like the fear of wanting to have a relationship again, the fear of imagining a relationship, because we have so much pain connected with relationship that we don't want to imagine spiritual emancipation and liberation and advancement in spiritual life, meaning like I become a servant and I become a lover and I'm in exchange with a person, because we don't want personality anymore. So that's, Prabhupada explained it in three different kind of psychology in that verse that really makes sense to me. I can see my impersonal tendency within Prabhupada's explanation of like, well, we are all impersonal, and let's be aware of that. Let's look at it. Let's free ourselves from it to open the door to a relationship with Krishna and his devotees.
So it's a form of frustration, basically, the desire to merge. That's what I get from.
It's avoiding responsibility in some ways.
It is what? Sorry?
Avoiding responsibilities, that I am a person and I will have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Narayan and Mother Malini.
Thank you.
And that's not on that, but I really liked your sharing when you were describing Brahma, how Brahma can't, he's like, think of Einstein, whatever, in a trillion, billion, quadrillion times, and then like he doesn't get it. And then I loved, like, it really touched me when you referenced even Krishna doesn't fully understand himself. Like you described that conflict between being omniscient, and simultaneously constantly expanding. So he's like always racing to catch up with himself. Something about that really touched me. Like I don't know, that I felt like a sense of humility in that. So I want to share that was really beautiful. I love the way that you transmitted that.
Saying what's been said to me, I'm glad it touched you. I guess it's like really like opens you up to Krishna's beauty, grace, expansiveness, and it's humbling.
Yeah, and even also like one of Krishna's opulences being not surrender, but detachment, renunciation. Even like I could see a quality of humility in Krishna, of like even he doesn't fully understand Krishna. Like I was seeing humility in Krishna, and that made me even more attracted to him. Yeah.
Yeah, I see you're falling in love with Krishna.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You don't need to look at me. You can look at yourself. It's a computer to yourself. Anyway, my question is that, okay, you spoke a lot about Vedanta. You spoke a lot about not needing to understand Krishna. It's not about understanding Krishna and not wanting to control my understanding of Krishna and all that. And so one can ask, oh, what's the point of reading all those books? You know, the spiritual master, he gave us so many books and they are all full of wanting to understand Krishna. So what's that about?
Yeah, I'm wondering this myself. Thanks for bringing that up. I can't wait for you to answer this question. But what I will give, like my understanding of this is like that there's a distinction between like relishing the exchanges that Krishna is having with his devotees, like and in a way, it's a way that we're worshiping Krishna, is like by relishing in his pastimes or sharing about his pastimes, is like a way of rejoicing in Krishna. It's a way of loving Krishna, and there is like, it's like that's one extreme to say like, well, I don't want to read about if I'm not like supposed to understand about Krishna or like try to understand Krishna. I wasn't. My goal wasn't to say that we should endeavor to know how to serve Krishna, because by the spiritual master is giving us the understanding by which we can really please Krishna, because Krishna is a personality. He has senses, he has desires, and so we need some understanding to love someone, and there's a difference between like what someone is on paper versus like who they really are, like and for me, like reading Shastra isn't reading paper. Like this is Shabda Brahman, this is transcendental vibration, and especially given to us by a pure devotee, then it's like directly Krishna's qualities are imbibed in Krishna book, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's not like dry speculative philosophy. It's like a way that we can begin to actually intimately know and then understand how to love and serve Krishna. So it's like the goal, it's the intention that is different. It's like if I just want to learn all the stories in Krishna book just to like, but not use that to serve Krishna, then again, like still, of course, that's incredibly purifying, but my sense is that we've missing the point. If it's just about that. Anything you want to share?
I'm feeling complete by your response. I really love what you responded. Like, we read the books, and like, I love the analogy you took about the glasses. Like, we cannot see X-ray, and Krishna is all around, and the pure devotee have the eyes to see Krishna all around, like a machine where you see the X-ray. I love that analogy you gave. And so by reading the books, that's what we do. We take the glasses for a little while and we put them on. And then the pure devotee is showing us, and he's showing us, and I appreciate your point, he's showing us, okay, here is the goal, to serve. And here is how you can serve. And here is how you can develop love. And here is how you can disentangle yourself. But it's not about me having the knowledge. It's not about me trying to control Krishna by knowing him. It's about me allowing myself to humble myself and surrender to the person who has the glasses and takes the glasses for a little while to learn, to be trained. Like it's training more than a learning. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
very much.
Yeah. That brings up also, like, I know that there, you know, especially in India, there are some who know the Bhagavatam front to back, and they recite it for money and to, like, maybe their intention isn't for others to develop pure love of God, you know, where that's how fortunate we are in reading Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. It's like his every purport and his every word and teaching is like for that purpose, to develop that love. So it's very distinct. It's so rare in that way.
We are associating also directly with the pure devotee in reading.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, thank you, Narayan, for your class and presentation. I'm moved by the discussions. I appreciated your Shankaracharya references. Yes, Shankaracharya, when we get into it, he's a very staunch, loving personalist. Yeah, this Bhajagovinda, Muna Mate. I'm not sure which song that's from. Maybe it's the Govindastakam. He has a Govindastakam, and he's glorifying the pastimes of Krishna with Mother Yashoda and Krishna and the cowherd boys. So so that's, you know, he had this particular service to give the non-personal interpretation of Vedanta, but he was such a loving personalist there as a partial incarnation of Lord Shiva. Then on the like, you know, I appreciated the discussion. Why our attraction to what the conditioned soul's attraction to merging, and so there's the psychology, the frustration, but sometimes Prabhupada, he uses the term that's the last snare of Maya. Means Maya is basically, I want to be the center, like I want to be God. I don't want to serve God. Okay, then someone develops some spiritual inspiration to at least to detach from matter. Then the last snare of Maya, that's like another way. It's like the last way. Oh, I get to be God by merging. I get to be God by merging. So that's another part of the psychology to avoid surrender to a superior person. I really appreciated how you illustrated through examples of Brahma or highly successful personalities in this world, how superior Krishna is in all ways. So that's Maya means like, I don't, the material ego, I don't want to surrender to a superior person, but I do want to be detached from matter, so that the impersonal merging is a way where I get to be God, at least in my own mind. And then, I was inspired by the discussion about, there's of course we want to hear about Krishna. Krishna says, my devotees take great delight in conversing about me. And then emphasize it, but it's the what's the spirit behind? So the spirit behind Vyasadeva, Srila Prabhupada, Narada Muni. It's like, yeah, I want to Krishna from a spirit of devotion, not from a spirit of I will control. Ishvaraham Hambogi, just like we want to control assets, we want to control money, we want to control people. So that's another form of the material controlling propensity. I'll control by knowing a lot. I'll control by knowledge. And then, as you nicely pointed out, Krishna says, even if someone just has that jnani propensity to control by knowledge, if they're sincere, bahunam janmananante gyanavan mam prapatite vasudeva sarvamiti samatma sudurlabha. If they're sincere, then eventually they will come to that sweet surrendered devotion to Vasudeva Sri Krishna.
Right. Thank you, Prabhu, for furthering those points. It's very important. And I appreciate you bringing in just how that intention is the key in a way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyone else like to share anything before we go? All right, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ekadasi ki jai, Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.